Have you noticed how it's getting harder to stay calm with everything going on? Wars, natural disasters, and a flood of disturbing news. Our minds are constantly being tested. The impact is global, changing the way we think and feel, often leading to trauma and depression. But what's really happening in our brains, and how can we break this cycle? Stick with me, and today we're going to uncover how the world around us is shaping our mental health and how we can respond in a healthier way. We live in an age where global crises seem to multiply every day. Devastating natural disasters, intense armed conflicts, and even public figures being exposed by the media, all creating a sense of instability and distrust. These events don't just affect what we see and hear, they also deeply impact our brains. Our nervous system, designed to survive threats, is now constantly on high alert. And when the brain is in survival mode for too long, stress turns into chronic anxiety, which often leads to depression. What many don't realize is that our brains have been conditioned since childhood to follow a belief system that may no longer work. This system taught us to seek security and success in ways that now seem ineffective, especially in such a chaotic world. But it's not our parents or society's fault for shaping us this way. They were taught the same things. Now, we're reaching a breaking point where it's necessary to question these patterns and understand how they impact our emotions. Trauma isn't just something we experience individually. Collective traumas like wars and natural disasters affect entire groups, creating emotional scars that can last for generations. A recent study showed that events like these change how the brain processes fear and safety. The media and the internet amplify these events, bombarding us with disturbing images and news all the time. For many, this creates a constant sense of helplessness, fueling a cycle of sadness and hopelessness. When the brain is exposed to so much stress, our ability to regulate emotions is compromised. Elevated levels of cortisol, the stress hormone, harm areas of the brain like the hippocampus and the prefrontal cortex, which are responsible for memory and decision making. The result? We feel stuck in a cycle of negative thoughts and self-destructive behaviors. But here's the good news. It is possible to break this cycle. The first step is to understand that our feelings and reactions, while intense, are natural responses to a world that seems out of control. And even more importantly, we can train our brains to handle these situations better. Practices like mindfulness meditation and breathing techniques are effective in regulating emotions and reducing the brain's reactivity to stress. But it's not enough to just practice mindfulness. It's crucial that we start questioning the thought patterns we've been taught. We need to reframe how we view success, security, and even life purpose. By reprogramming our brains, we are literally changing the neural connections that control our emotions. It's not about ignoring the chaos around us, but about finding new ways to respond to it. To understand how this works, we need to take a deeper look at our brains. It is made up of different parts that regulate our emotions. The limbic system, for example, is responsible for processing our emotional reactions. When we are stressed or traumatized, this part of the brain goes into overdrive. This can lead to an emotional overload, making it difficult for us to think rationally. The key to starting to break this cycle is recognizing what's happening inside the brain. When we become aware of how our thoughts and emotions are interconnected, we begin to gain control over them. It's not easy, but with practice and dedication, it is possible to find ways to improve brain function and, in turn, our emotional well-being. The chaos of the world doesn't have to determine the chaos within you. By understanding how our brain functions during times of stress and trauma, we can start to regain control of our emotions. Remember, it's not about blaming those who taught us these ways of thinking, but recognizing that we now have the power to change. We can break the cycle and create new connections, both in our brains and in how we see the world. We've reached the final chapter of this series. If this video sparked a new perspective or inspired you to learn more about how your brain and emotions work, stick with us. Leave your comment below about how you've been dealing with current news and events, and don't forget to subscribe and share this video. Help us help others. Change begins with knowledge. We'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.